Good morning, everybody. This is Mark Burgess with DCO. Welcome to this week's Wednesday webinar. Jeannie Kitchens will be presenting today on Illinois WorkNet updates, things you'll be noticing changing on the Illinois WorkNet site in the upcoming weeks and months. I think most of us have been to several of these webinars. We're going to operate it just the same. You'll be able to ask your questions in the chat pod. Also, if at any point in time during the presentation by Jeannie you have a question or a comment on that particular topic, you can chime in on the phone. Please mute your phones if you aren't speaking so that we don't get background sound or noise. And then also at the end of the session, when Jeannie's done, we can open up the lines to any other questions you might have that have been outstanding in your mind for the last week or two, and try to answer those with the staff we have here. We've got quite a few from the OET staff here in the room. So with that, Jeannie, if you want to get started with your presentation, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good morning. This is Jeannie Kitchens. First, let me just confirm everyone can hear me okay?
Sounds great, Jeannie.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is, thank you for those who raised their hand. What I'm going to do is just walk through a PowerPoint, and then if you'd like, and if time allows, I'll go ahead and I could even demonstrate on WorkNet some of the things that I will cover today. And what I want to talk about today is how Illinois WorkNet web portal system is continuing, to support now WIOA and supporting the technology roadmap ahead. So what I'd like to do is cover things that are available now and talk about what's in process now. And we can come back again to this meeting and talk about going beyond the now into more futuring, because for those of you who know Illinois WorkNet, we are always looking ahead. There's always a plan for the future. So let's begin by talking about what's available now with IllinoisWorkNet.com. So, WorkNet has a whole new look, whole new facelift, so to speak. But not only does it look different, but behind it, all of the technologies have been upgraded to the most current technologies. And so it is an advanced technology system. It continues to be available to all of our state citizens, to employers, and to workforce and education partners. And when I say workforce and education partners, I'm also including, community partners, and they could be, for example, libraries or other community organizations who also, as a part of what they do, help people achieve their career training and employment goals. So with the new Illinois WorkNet web portal system, it still provides a roadmap for individuals, employers and partners who are helping individuals and employers that goes across the entire spectrum of what I call career development functions. And those functions in the WorkNet system begin, I would say, in middle school. We really don't have content for elementary age students, going up through adult career transition, including, for example, being impacted by a layoff. So all those services, tools, and resources continue. Now this PowerPoint is available to everyone on the webinar, and we'll also go ahead and put it with our partner guide, because what we also want to do with this information is give you PowerPoints and things that you can use with your own staff or partners so you can share information as well. But what you're seeing here are the kind of main menu or help areas across the main menu of Illinois WorkNet, and a brief explanation of how they help individuals or employers or partners, and that ties to WIOA. Now, I did not include what I call a crosswalk, and a crosswalk would be identifying all of the tools and resources and services in WorkNet and literally crosswalking them to the new definitions of WIOA services. And I do want everyone to know that we have done that. We have put together a kind of a crosswalk document. We'll be reviewing that with a DCEO shortly and identifying any gaps in that crosswalk to, bolster those gaps and make sure that the path forward is supportive of all of the WIOA services for adult, youth, and dislocated worker. And now this slide is showing a little bit more information so you could see more about what each of the career development functions or main menu items on WorkNet consists of. Now, Illinois WorkNet, again, still continues to provide access, resources, and tools to WIOA programs and core partner services. And so through Illinois WorkNet, any programs, new programs that are in particular funded through DCEO OET, there is always going to be a web presence about that program on WorkNet. And these are literally copy-paste from screenshots of the home page under programs. And so anyone can go to WorkNet and they could see all of the many programs supported now through WIOA that have information, resources, or tools available through Illinois WorkNet. Now, what I want to point out here is that you'll notice what I call these tiles. And on the tiles, some are blue and some are not. The blue background tiles indicate that the information is geared toward partners. And I'll get into the partner guide being available in just a moment. So for partners, and all of you on this call are partners, whether it's a local workforce area, a state agency, or a library that signed up to be a WorkNet partner, the Illinois WorkNet team and the Illinois WorkNet portal acknowledges all of those types of organizations as partners. And information is available from the footer of WorkNet. It used to be at the very top of old WorkNet. Now it's at the bottom of WorkNet. And you'll see a link to partner resources. And there are guides available. And, they're for everyone that's on this call. If you go take a look, you'll see there are guides that are aimed at partners who help individuals or employers, or possibly even other partners. So we have a lot of information and tools and guidance available about what WorkNet offers and how you can use it.
I said I didn't have a problem with it either, but...
So going now onto more, just kind of concrete WIOA type required information for the public, consumer information. Illinois WorkNet recently released a new interface for WIOA approved training programs that was presented to the IWP, and recently in Chicago for the Chicago-Cook County Workforce Partnership, they had their provider training. There'll be, there's always webinars coming up to provide overviews, training information, technical assistance on tools. So if that webinar hasn't happened yet, I can assure you it is in process of being scheduled. But what this does is it's pulling in the approved training programs from the IWDS system, but providing all of the public consumer information, including performance information, that's available through IWDS. So what it does is allow for looking at those programs by local area, or by, say, your radius, wherever you live, by job families and specific occupations that are identified with the program for which the program, prepares the student, and as well as any demand occupations that have been identified through the program description, because that is also a, WIOA policy requirement that for specific types of training programs, they must show that there are outcomes for the students that get them into demand occupations. So all that information is here, and any partner can put this on their website. And what I mean by this is a completely interactive search interface where you can view, compare, see details, map out, bookmark information, and through copy pasting a little tiny code snippet, that entire interactive functionality can be put on any partner website. And for a local workforce area, what they can do is they can default the information so it defaults to their local area as well. Now, another thing that's very specific to WIOA and is managed through Illinois WorkNet is the Illinois WorkNet Centers, affiliates, and community partner information. So the old way of doing it was to submit WIOA-funded site information to IWDS to be entered into IWDS. But now local areas have staff who have complete access to enter their WIOA locations, manage them, update them, and we automatically send that information on to IWDS. So all that information is still going to that system. But all of the management aspect of it and all of the consumer information is available through WorkNet. And I'd also add to that all of this information is fed to the Illinois WorkNet Job Prep mobile app. So both the training providers and the that we just looked at and the WIOA funded locations are available through the Job Prep mobile app. So let me just take a quick pause there and see if anybody has any questions yet. Good to go? All right, well, then I'll continue. So Illinois WorkNet has always offered personalization pretty much since the day it was launched, and it continues to do that. And so individuals anyone on this call, any individual can set up a personalized account and have access to a set of global tools where they could bookmark, for example, their WIOA training provider information and a lot of other information on the site. They could complete the Employment 101 online guide that includes a certificate of completion. They have complete access to create an unlimited number of resumes using the Optimal Resume Builder. They can go directly to the IDES Career Information System and complete and return to their career interest surveys. There's access to special programs, and the special programs would be, for example, accelerated training for Illinois manufacturing or a summer youth employment program, and most currently the Disability Employment Initiative. So when customers set up their account and they log in and they complete any of the Illinois WorkNet provided assessments that are available directly through the portal, for example, the Skill Interest Survey, Employment 101, the NACD 21st Century Skills. We also have an observational assessment and a worksite evaluation assessment. They can go to their account and see all of that outcome information directly. So they always have access to it. And if there is a certificate that goes with that, it's also available through their account. So that was a kind of high-level overview of the the WorkNet individual services and how WorkNet is in lockstep with moving forward with WIOA, and will continue to do so in the future. And now let's take a look at some of the partner tools available to make sure all of you are aware of what's available now. So any partner can set up an account. They can request to be identified as partner staff, We do approve those requests to make sure that only partner staff are given access to information so they could see and work directly with their customers. So all local areas automatically have access to their IWDS customers that we populate, and they automatically have access to those customers to have them complete assessments, for example, assign the NOC 21st century assessment, and then see the results and communicate with their customers. So that continues. Any partner can have a WorkNet account, as I said, and they can be identified as a partner, and that's real important because they want to be differentiated from the individuals, because for partners, of course, we have a whole other set of important information on things like how to use the system to help your customers, and benefit and of course save time and money. Okay, so those are the things that we currently have, and I didn't provide tons of detail. If we want to take a look after this, I'll ask everyone if they want to look at any of the new features and benefits on WorkNet that are available now, and we certainly walk through and demonstrate those because there is a lot to see. But if there aren't any other questions about that part, I will move on to what's in process now. So let me pause for a moment and see if DCO or anybody else on the phone has any questions or comments on the presentation so far. Okay, is everybody awake? Okay, so then I'll move on. And let's take a look at what's in progress now related to WIOA. And by in progress now, what I mean is this, for example, this WIOA policy app actually has a plan that's been developed. The plan is a rather lengthy written document that looks at all of the business requirements, the functions. It has these little pictures in it that you see on the right that are concepts or blueprints for what should go on the pages, what type of information, and how it might be shown to the user. So what you're seeing on the right side here is a concept that we'll be using. Because the plan has been completed and DCO has formed an advisory committee, and that committee will provide ongoing feedback and will develop the public access and the new policy format. And we'll also, of course, be developing the DCO aspect of it as well, where DCO is managing, changing, adding, managing policy, and along with that, they're attaching the documents and the references and the guidance and so forth. So that is now the plan is completely developed. The committee is formed. The next step is to actually begin the development, and the typical process for the development is we meet ongoing with the advisory group and kind of show and tell and get feedback and repeat, show and tell and get feedback and repeat.
Hi, Jeannie. It's
Until
Mark.
it's done.
Somebody's raised
Yes.
their hand, so I just wanted to let them know if they wanted to say something or ask a question, they can go ahead. I didn't know what their reason for raising their hand was for.
Okay.
So Betty, if you have a question, please go ahead and ask it.
Your microphone has been turned
on. Typing something in there.
Training.
Thanks, Betty. I appreciate that. I want to make sure everybody's not falling asleep on me. So quiet. Okay, so let me continue. The next app that we have in process is called the WIOA Local Board Certification Process app. For those of you who are on the call and have been working with the local boards, there is a process for nominating board members, convening those board members, keeping them on the board, and so forth. And in the past, that's really been a paper process that's coordinated through DCO. So now we're taking that paper process and turning it into an online process to streamline it, obviously reduce the paperwork and save people a lot of time. And so what plan has been completed. the partner advisory has been formed. And again, the same process will follow, where we have this nice document with a whole bunch of details and lovely pictures in it that show what customers would see, how people can complete an online nomination form, and then how the CEO and board staff as well would use that same interface that they log in, and the local boards would log in, their staff, and be able to manage the board information and membership. And so what you're seeing here is a kind of blueprint picture, and it's showing how it would have this kind of high-level dashboard view of the board composition, and if maybe a timeline was coming close to an end or the composition requirements weren't being met, there could be color coding to show, green, you're good to go, or red, it would be probably better to take a look at this. There might be a timeline that's getting ready to end, or the composition isn't being met. So this is something the CEO would log into. This is something board staff would log into. This is something DCO would log into, with each group seeing the information relevant to them and having access roles and rights that are, of course, relevant to their roles and jobs and so forth. So so we talked about the policy. We talked about the board certification. And those are really things that have to do with the implementation of WIOA at the local level, and obviously, clear connections to the state level. But we also have things going on that are beneficial to our citizens across the state of Illinois and other local staff, including career planners in local areas. So one of the projects we're working on is called DEI, and that's Disability Employment Initiative. And what this program is doing is providing integrated services for individuals with disabilities, and one of the goals is for the processes and tools to be integrated in day-to-day local WIOA activities. So what this implies is that these tools are not specific to an individual with a disability. The program is specific, and it provides specific services and help and support for these individuals to help them achieve their training and employment goals. But we have multiple tools that are really intended to become more, universal and can become widely available. So for example, we have a pre-starter and complete online application that populates the IWDS application. Career planners can access the applications submitted through WorkNet and can update them as needed. And then customers see, submit, and return to the application, so the customer has, access to their application to see it. Once they submit it, they can't change it, but career planners can, and it will update the IWDS application to reduce any kind of duplicate entry. So other aspects of that include a dashboard for integrated services and teams, and a personalized career planner. So I'll give you a little sense of those things. And here's just a little, again, an explanation of the DEI program. And what I want to note here is really these goals are applicable to our WIOA customers in general as well. So this is a high-level overview of those DEI tools that can be made available more broadly for WIOA in terms of the recruitment, the application, the intake, planning, providing those services, and then viewing and seeing and reporting on any outcomes. These are excerpts from a training PowerPoint that we put together for the local areas that are doing the DEI, and that was scenario-based. And so what I did was I just pulled some of the slides from that larger PowerPoint, which is available on Illinois WorkNet from the DEI Partner Guide. And so here is just a little blurb that is meant to show you how a customer can access either an online starter application or a complete pre-application through Illinois WorkNet and complete it return to it, submit it when they're ready, and it saves with their account. So this is an app, and it could be put anywhere in Illinois WorkNet. So it will be used for new programs such as a new JTED SNAP program, but it could also be more broadly available. So here, what we're saying here is that there's this dashboard, and the dashboard is showing this kind of color-coded real-time information. So, and what it's doing is like a Google map. It's kind of like a drill down where it's showing you a big picture, but then if you want to see the detail, you can, and you can drill down and then go all the way down to the customer level. But it's only available based on appropriate roles. And what you see is determined, based on, again, by roles and whether or not you're with a local area or if you're part of an integrated partnership. And so the idea here is to be able to get a quick view from an interactive dashboard that's real time as to what's going on in a broader scope of big picture customer information. And here you can see a little bit more information where it's showing here services that are mapped to WIOA, and it's this real high-level view where then you're going to see quantities, and all those would be clickable to then kind of drill down into that specific service area. So, and then going on with DEI, notes can be added. So it's also a partnership communication tool that keeps a timeline and a history. So rather than sending a whole bunch of emails or making a whole bunch of phone calls and playing phone tag, what this allows for is cross-communication between the local area team and external team members that they identify to be included on a team as a partner. And again, the external team members don't get to see all the information that the career planner does, but it provides essential information that helps improve access to services, reduce redundant services, and open up communications to better help the customers as well. Okay, and so I think this is my final slide from DEI, is showing a mock-up or a blueprint of the plan for including a personalized career plan. So this is where the DEI is now. So all those other screens you saw are done and available to the DEI partners, and they're using it with their integrated partnerships now. And where we're at with the partners now is getting feedback and advisement through a group that meets, I think it's every week now. And where they're at is now, and the agenda is providing feedback on the personalized career plan. So this personalized career plan, consistent with the other information I gave you, would of course automatically update IWDS. But what it would do would allow for creating a plan jointly with selected integrated partners that are identified by a local area. It would give access directly to the customer, so they would see their plan through their dashboard, and update the Illinois Workforce Development System as well in any applicable areas, so there is not a duplication of data entry. So those are some of the things that are available now, some of the things that we have in process now.
Jeannie?
Yes.
It's Mark. I just wanted to follow up on some of the DEI in the sense that some of these local areas may not understand DEI because it's not in their local area at this time. DEI is specific to a handful of local areas. It's funds through federal DOL, ETA, and so what the principles are is that we're going to utilize the things we learn through DEI at both the local and the state and federal levels, and eventually, hopefully, those will be shared throughout the states. So eventually the other local areas will see some of the byproduct of what we're doing through the DEI program in their areas, the interagency teams, and it kind of flows right into the goals of WIOA, is that there's going to be a partnership between all these core programs, let everyone do the best job that they can do on their side so that people aren't, duplicating the services. So it'll have those teams built as shown on the dashboards that have access to say, we've helped this individual at this level with this service, et cetera. So just for those that aren't part of the DEI program, hopefully in the next year or two, you'll start seeing more of the byproduct of what the DEI program is geared to do.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, so questions, comments. Can we hear from some of the many participants on the call? I just love to hear from someone. And also, because I'm not, it's not my intent to just fill up the time. I don't want to do that. But if anybody would like me to pull up the WorkNet site and show anything, I'm always more than happy to do that.
Michelle's asking if these will be tools. A lot of the things that are occurring with Illinois WorkNet, for those of you familiar with WIOA and their goals of making services available both in person but also technologically, that's what Illinois WorkNet comes in, and that's why they're including more and more every day the partner programs, so that some of these services can be provided through technology rather than actually visiting a WorkNet center every time they want to receive a service. With that, what you'll see is information on Illinois WorkNet tools, but also things related to actual policy and requirements for the local area as they deal with customers. One example will be, once it's finalized, under WIOA, everyone has to go through an assessment and get an IEP, especially if they want to get determined eligible to receive training services. And so we are in the process working with Jeannie's team, OET, Jeannie's team, and looking back at the trade IEP to develop an IEP for WIOA customers that will then be integrated into Illinois WorkNet. It'll be a requirement, obviously, because an IEP has to be completed, and this will be a means of completing that IEP by utilizing Illinois WorkNet. So while there's tools out there, there will be policy and requirement guidelines integrated with all of these various parts of Illinois WorkNet that, again, the local areas will have to comply with.
Yep. So,
yeah,
and
Mary
then,
Beth's just making a comment on the board certification. We sure hope that we are going to make the process a lot easier. The one thing it will make easier is that whole signature process of sending signatures to multiple CEOs or other appointees to the board. And so we'll hopefully have a signature that's electronic and can be done. Basically, someone will get an email notification that a document is ready for their signature, review and signature, and so they'll be able to go on, log into Illinois WorkNet, that portion where the certification screens will be, and do an electronic signature right there, and it won't have to wait till the next meeting or several days down the road till local staff can get with that individual in person and get a signature. So we do hope it's going to be a great improvement to the process. The screens that Jeannie showed will immediately show where the boards are at as far as complying with the WIOA requirements for composition, as well as provide them some updates to say, you know what, you're going to have some people coming off the board because of term expirations, and so you probably should start looking for replacements if you're not going to reappoint those individuals. So hopefully we feel very good about it in the stages where it's at now as far as what we think it's going to look like. Obviously, at the very end of a process like this, development process, we'll have some glitches with it potentially. That's why we're including local staff in a work group reviewing these things so that they can bring their perspective to this and hopefully catch the majority, if not all of them, before we actually roll this out for production. Jeannie, if you want to add anything more on that.
No, I think that was really good. Thanks a lot.
Okay, a question on utilizing a current IEP. Right now, what we've asked people to do, you can use the IEP that you have now. I would refer to the trade IEP to make sure you've got all the required information as far as those elements that relate to the WIOA side of it. Obviously, the trade has a lot more requirements to it. And again, what we're doing is utilizing that trade IEP as our basis for development of a WIOA one. So what you have now will suffice. Once we finalize an IEP for WIOA, you'll be required to include all of that information in your local IEP, but can add to it if you have some other information that you'd rather collect on the local side that we don't require. So yes, long roundabout way, yes, continue what you're doing now until further notice on how the state wants you to complete an IEP. I don't really know where the process on that is. Jeannie and OE2 are working on so many different projects right now. Unless Jeannie feels comfortable providing some kind of a timeline on any of these, including IEP development, I probably would step back and not provide any kind of timeline at this point.
Yeah, we're not going to provide the total timeline, but where we are now is this feedback process. So we create these documents that have all of the requirements. It identifies all of the what's called functions. What does it need to do for the partner? What does it need to do for the customer? What data needs to go to IWDS? So we already have a document well underway and plans for this well underway. What's going on now is the alignment to WIOA, just making sure that everything is going to align well to the new vision and getting feedback. So what I could add to that is we really need and welcome feedback on this, and there is a group largely composed now of it's a local area staff, but I believe, and Mark could probably might know if there's others on it, but what we need are others outside of the LWIAs who are doing the DEI project. So DEI is not universally being done by all local areas. It's a special grant that some local areas are doing. They have staff that meet with us regularly. And now that we're segueing to this, and it's not really DEI implementation specific, we welcome feedback. So if anybody is interested in meeting with the group, and your assignment in meeting with the group means you get to see the show and tell, you get to provide all the feedback that's acted upon, and be a participant basically in the co-engineering and co-building of this. So if anybody's interested, please let us know.
Okay, Jeannie, someone's got a question on, they get customers that log into Illinois WorkNet, develop an account, but then they can't remember their information. Is there any way, either through your process of informing them how to get back to their same screen, or through staff access, that ability exists, especially with dashboards, so that they don't lose information they've already built up to a dashboard, and now I can't remember to get into it, so they don't start having to build a new dashboard of their personal information?
No, and they'll always only have one dashboard. So if they forget their login, there is a link to recover it, and really all they have to do is enter their email and recover it, as most sites do. So that option's always available, and they don't lose anything. It's always the same information, so they'll always see it. But what this updated partner viewed or partner dashboard does give access to the career planners to be able to reset a password on behalf of the customer. So you do have that option as well. We can't predict what a customer is doing or where they're going, but all of their personalized information is always only in their dashboard. So as an advisor, it would always be the instruction back to the customer would be to access it through their dashboard, their information. So password recovery is available.
Okay, as far as the ISS, the individual strategy, service strategy for youth, we hadn't really discussed that as part of development of an IEP, but I think they go hand in hand. So we'll make sure we include those in the discussions, and it may lag behind since we hadn't originally included it, but we will let people know as we, go forward with development of IEPs as to what, what we're doing with ISS. Comment on managing two systems can be, not so efficient. We understand that, and that's why we're going more and more towards Illinois WorkNet on a lot of these things. I think if we had a choice and we could do everything on Illinois WorkNet because of the more up-to-date technology, we probably choose to do that. But unfortunately, some of the things we have to do by DOL requirements, especially performance reporting, things of that nature, have to come out of IWDS because of the programs they give us at this point in time. Plus, it's just a lot of work to try and take everything out of one system, put it into another, while you're also developing new things in that newer system, which is Illinois WorkNet. So, it's not a perfect system. We're trying to make it, talk back and forth as much as possible. If Jeannie wants to add more as to how that occurs, I'll let her speak to that. But we are doing our best to try and make it to where you only have to enter information once, whether it be in Illinois WorkNet or in IWDS, not the same information twice.
Right, and that, we completely agree that the goal needs to be, no duplicate entry. And that's where, as Mark said, we're going, into the future. So, and I want to make a note here that with this DEI, the application is populating IWDS, and there's other areas as well that we show here in the dashboard where it's automatically populating IWDS. And so we work very, very closely, the IWDS team and the WorkNet team. We work very closely. We meet pretty much weekly to talk about technical things and, moving forward, continuing to move forward into the future.
Yeah, and Susan, that just kind of to follow up with that conversation, it's definitely the goal to not have to have a career planner or customer enter information. And sometimes that customer might be a provider. So we don't want to enter it twice, have people enter it twice, but we know there's going to be holes that we just either haven't got to in development stages or aren't able to take away the the requirement to enter some information. But we hope we get to the majority, if not all of it, soon, to where if they do it one place, it'll talk to the other. But if I'm not a programmer, so I don't really know the extent of the time it takes to program these things, but I know it's pretty extensive to try and make the connection to talk back and forth between them. And so there's just going to be some things that aren't able to get done in the near future. Mike's asking for the IEP. Yes, the goal is to have the IEP available on Illinois WorkNet. That will talk to IWDS, so information put into that will either populate from IWDS because that's where the customers was initially started with their general information, but it will populate the IEP, and then as you enter additional information in IEP, such as the services being provided by a career planner, that will talk back to IWDS and highlight that those services were given. Case notes, my understanding is case notes can even be done in Illinois WorkNet and talk back to IWDS and enter them there as well. But especially in a form like this, an individual employment plan, the format of Illinois WorkNet is so much more conducive to completion of that information and those tasks compared to how IWDS works at this point in time. So again, the goal is, if you just kind of think long term, some of this will occur short term, but long term is that we will get as much as possible in Illinois WorkNet and as much as possible talking back and forth between the two systems.
Yep. So thanks again.
Okay,
Mark and-
any other questions for Jeannie while we still have her on the line? We will take a few moments once we're done with any follow-up questions for Jeannie to answer any other WIOA questions. We've got several of the OET staff here, so if anyone has other questions not related to Illinois WorkNet, we can handle those as well. So we knew this was going to be a short day today. Hopefully everyone is thankful for that every once in a while. But we do want to provide some time to answer any other questions that you might have. And if not for Jeannie, thank you very much, Jeannie, for your presentation and the information you provided today. I'm sure as we go along with these Wednesday webinars down the road, we'll ask you to come back and update on some of the things that are getting completed, status of those in progress, or maybe some new things that you continue to develop.
Sounds great. I'm always more than happy to talk about what's going on with WorkNet, and I want to thank everyone for participating this morning. I really appreciate your time. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Thank you again. So any other questions for WIOA while we have you on the line, whether you do it by phone or in the chat pod? We'll give you a few minutes to develop those questions, and then we will we'll answer those and let you go when we're done. As far as eligibility policy, we're still trying to finalize those. We've got a couple more things, such as finalization of resources. We've got a couple new ones that came in recently that we got to add to it. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of other things going on in addition, not only OET staff, but KEB staff. And as we all know, they're helping us, putting a tremendous amount of effort into helping us with these policies. So they're a little bit more behind than we anticipated maybe a couple of weeks ago, but hopefully in the next week to 2 weeks, those will be out. As far as eligibility, we did have a question come in today. We're continuing to, or not today, but this week, continuing to speak to DOL reps to get clarifications on scenarios that the local areas are sending us, such as what's in school, what's out of school, you know, between breaks in classes, things of that nature. So if you send us questions, if you sent those to Jim Potts or to myself, be assured we're looking into those, and it might take a little bit more time than we anticipate because we're waiting on DOL to respond with a clear answer so that we can pass that on, and then we will continue to share that information with all the local areas. Jim's with us. Michelle's asking that she's noticed a separate eligibility certification for basic skills deficient customers. Must all of these be certified to enroll in training activities?
No, but that's a priority program for the adults. So like low income was for WIA, under WIOA, low income is also a priority, and also basic skills deficient adult is a priority. But it's not necessarily for you to certify them, but I highly recommend certifying in any of those priority programs if you're wanting to serve the person, both low income and basic skills deficient. Because as it's written in the WIOA law, that is the priority programs for the adult population. That answer your question, Michelle?
Okay, while she's typing, Joanne's asking about the training provider certification process. That's another one we're waiting on DOL. They did put out a notice of proposed rulemaking on performance a couple weeks ago. We are meeting on that either this week or next week to try and sift through it as to how it applies to basic WIOA, but also how it applies to training providers. And I think if at all possible that we can put something out in general as far as the biggest hold up on the training provider one is the performance. We know the process we want right now. It's not that much different from the WIA policy as far as getting providers and programs on the list and keeping them on the list on an annual or biannual basis. So that's not really the issue. It's the performance issue, and the WIOA Act provides some basic performance items that should be considered, but we felt we should wait for DOL to give us guidance on what that should look like specifically. Unfortunately, I'm not sure the notice of proposed rulemaking did that well enough. So we're looking at potentially putting something out in a general sense of performance first, especially because we've got new providers that might be waiting to get on the list. And they can't until we issue some kind of a policy. And so it's kind of a roadblock right now because of that performance, but we're continuing to look at it, trying to figure out ways of doing it. As far as registered apprenticeships, we are trying to finalize some procedures on those to get those on the list, especially all of their locations, so that one consideration was that the sponsors or programs didn't want to contact every local area to get them on every local area ETPL, eligible training provider list. So we've agreed, and we have to figure out how in IWDS and process-wise it'll occur, but we've agreed we'll probably make a statewide ETPL for registered apprenticeships. So if they contact the state or through IWDS, however it's going to occur, since they're automatically on the list as long as they're registered apprenticeships, they'll be available throughout the state. So that hopefully will ease the burden on them in doing the application, or at least request to be on the list. So again, hopefully we have some information in the next few weeks that we can share with you on how that's going to look, who will be contacted by whom to get on the list.
Back to your question, Michelle, yes, you're correct. It's adding separate eligibility for basic skills deficient. It's part of the WIOA law, and if a client is the adult basic skills deficient as part of the individual employment plan, it would be addressing what we're going to do to get that client above basic skills deficient also. Would be part of your plan.
Okay, another one from Carrie, Jim. If there's a customer who is both low income and dislocated worker.
Yep, that's the same as under WIA. You could co-enroll those folks and split up your funding for those services. They would fall into performance under both the adult and dislocated worker, same as occurred during WIA, but most definitely you could co-enroll in both adult low income and dislocated worker.
Any other questions? Again, phone line should be opened unless someone has some background noise and we block those. So you can ask over the phone if you rather do that than type.
Hi, this is Chris from LWA2.
Okay.
I got a question for Jim. Jim, with our older youth category going up to 24 now, what about co-enrolling for both youth services and low-income adult services?
I believe you'd have the same ability, just to understand, because that's always been, was actually one of the things that was recommended for youth that were going to go into post-secondary training under WIA, was to co-enroll those in the adult funding stream due to the requirement of the 40% funding. So that was under WIA, so you could utilize the same thought process under your adult program, limit your, or help break out your funding between your youth and your adults. What you are going to run into, again, the client is going to fall into performance outcomes for both, and you won't be able to exit the client from either program until they're finished with services under both, I would think. That's how it was under WIA. I haven't seen anything different under WIOA, so I would imagine it's going to be the same. Does that answer your question?
Sure does. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Okay, as far as what each one can pay for, as long as it's an allowable activity under one or the other, whether it's adult and dislocated worker or youth and dislocated worker, I don't think there's any limitation on which one should pay the other one. That's a kind of a strategy on the local level as to how you best want to utilize your funds from both of those funding streams. Obviously, in the IEP payer of last resort, I'm not sure if this means the same, but as always, WIOA is the payer of last resort in the sense that we should be looking for other sources of funding for services prior to utilizing WIOA funds. And that was, that was under WIA, not really pressed very hard by DOL, but under WIOA, I think they will be looking to ensure we've used other sources. So complete those FAFSAs for those students that you can, try and get funds elsewhere through Pell Grants, et cetera, before utilizing your funds on the local level. But I'm not familiar enough to know if there's things that, obviously there's a few services available to youth maybe that aren't available to adults dislocated worker, but for the most part they're the same. Some of them are worded differently. So I think you just look at what services are available and that's what you're allowed to pay for. Okay, we don't have KEB staff with us today, so they should be sending out an update in the next day or two for next week's webinar. It's slipping my mind what we'd agreed upon. I believe we talked about, that we're going to continue to talk on WIOA policies, whether they're complete and can speak to that level or where we're at in the process with some of them, and if we have some new information we can share. But I'll leave that to KEB as they're coordinating these and determining the focus of each of the webinars. They'll be getting something out in the next day or two, so look forward to those. Again, until further notice, I know I've got a lot of emails from people over the weeks. Are we still having these? So unless you hear differently, plan on having a webinar every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, whether it be for an hour and a half. Hopefully we don't exceed the hour and a half, but I know we have in the past because we had a lot of subject matter on a particular topic. But just kind of put it on your calendar that we will have these at least through August. We haven't started talking about topics for September, but there's no intent to stop these anytime soon, so long as we can be providing valuable information and the local areas continue to welcome that information, as well as our core partners. I know I continue to see on the participant list some names that we aren't familiar with. Sometimes they put behind their name that they are with a core partner, such as ICCB has always been present in these webinars, but some of the other ones, DHS, I've seen some of those. So if you on the core partner side of it have some topics you think should be covered as far as WIOA, please contact either me, Mark Burgess, or Lisa Jones to let us know what you think should be covered. We have an intent at some point in the next few weeks to include a Wednesday date where we include core partners and some presentations by them. We just have to coordinate that, and I think that's kind of hinging on the interagency teams as to where we're at in the process with implementation of some of those WIOA requirements. So we'll be looking forward to those in the future and having core partners participate in these as well. So I think we've had all the questions we're going to get today. I appreciate everyone's participation again today.